Okay, then let's get started. I think we have a good number of people, and there will be more people joining in as we progress with the session. We have someone who's monitoring the section where we can admit people in whenever they want to join. So thank you, Ravina. Thank you, Irfan, for joining this session. A warm welcome to everyone who have joined us today. In this session, we are trying to focus on the on few basics of crowdfunding, as in why someone should consider and how crowdfunding works, and uh, what exactly online crowdfunding is. So to talk about this, we have two people who have recently written a book about crowdfunding. Their book, Crowdfunding: The Story of People, was widely discussed in the recent past. Uh, Ravina Banze and Irfan Bashir, both of you, I welcome you again to the session. They will be in conversation with Aarti Ganesh. She's the lead of the campaigns team from Milaap. So Milaap, as you're all aware, is in the forefront of crowdfunding in India. They have been in the crowdfunding industry for the past 11 years. And this is Milaap's story is not something that has been built overnight. It has been something that we have achieved over a period of time. So when Irfan and Ravina had considered writing the story of crowdfunding, I'm sure we were glad to contribute whatever little that we could to their book as well. Aarti, over to you. You'll be taking forward this session. You can start conversing with the authors that we have.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mubin. Great to have you both here, Irfan and Ravina. So to begin with, I've been with Milaap for the last 3+ years. Um, and I've been fortunate enough to see the magic of crowdfunding. And it's something that we see on a daily basis as we work for Milaap. Every day there are numerous stories of hope and help that we come across. So let's hear it from you guys. Why don't you tell us a little about crowdfunding becoming the story of people?
Hello.
Hi, Ravina.
Hi. Hi. Thank you, Aarti. Thank you, Mubin. Thank you for having me here. Uh, so I'll tell you a little bit. I'll tell everybody a little bit about myself. So academically, I did my graduation in sociology and anthropology, and then I did my postgrad in data analytics. So yeah, I come with a combination of both social sciences and data and working on data science, etc. So I firmly believe that tech and social sciences is something which will go a long way. Also, I come with around 3 years of work experience in the development sector. I have worked with CSR companies. I have worked with NGOs. Um, so I think the entire journey from undergrad to now with also the NGO part, working with CSR organizations, working with corporates as well, and then finally authoring this book on crowdfunding. It was a very intriguing experience. The entire concept of crowdfunding for me has always it's been very fascinating, of course, because in economics also you study poverty. In economics you study financial inclusion, and even one of the most popular economists, Amartya Sen, also says that poverty is the deprivation of opportunities. And you see how crowdfunding is somewhere fills that gap. So this entire concept of crowdfunding was very fascinating. And then somewhere we realized that while working in the crowdfunding space, we realized that there's a lot of stigma which is attached to the concept of crowdfunding till today in India in comparison to the West, which is way more ahead for multiple reasons. It could be because of tech, it could be because they had an upper hand, they had the first mover advantage. But yes, we realized that there was a lot of stigma attached to the entire crowdfunding space, and that there needed a lot more awareness to be done. It is flourishing, but we needed somewhere for people to resonate, and crowdfunding is somewhere we've also seen through numbers, we've also seen through donation numbers, campaign numbers, even
Right.
at Milaap, it's only been increasing. So of course, people are resonating with the entire concept of crowdfunding. It's giving them an opportunity to do their bit, but also I think people through social networks right now, through social media and through tighter social networks, there's this entire awareness of crowdfunding, which can uh, add to this inclusive finance, and it gives a lot of opportunity, and of course the social good part behind it. So I think it is the power. It is the story of people. It is the power of people. It's not somewhere that only some people have power, or some people hold so much wealth and they have power over the entire sector. But I think each and every person in this space, in this ecosystem, has uh, holds the equal amount of importance. And that's why I think we firmly believe that crowdfunding is the story and the power of people.
Right, right, right. Thank you so much for that, Ravina. Uh, Irfan, now I think moving on to you. So there must have been some experience from the past that probably triggered you to even come up with this entire study about online crowdfunding to an extent that you both decided to write about it. Would you like to tell us a little about that as well?
Thank you, Arti. So uh, I come from the media background. I have worked as a journalist for over 5 years now. And throughout my time, and I covered locally in Kashmir, so I saw a lot of things on ground where a few things intrigued me. Like, for example, every Friday, I would see the local imam get on the speaker and he would basically crowdfund. He would make an appeal to the public about specific cases of people. Okay, oh, there's this family and they need medical aid. They're suffering from this problem, and would you like to help them? And that would all happen offline. Now, if you look at the greater scheme of things, India as a nation, one of our biggest strengths is the population. Like, we are a nation of 1.3 billion people. So naturally, the power of the crowd is at the forefront of the changes that are made in India, right? Like, we have seen in India, funds are raised overnight,
Yes.
to feed thousands of people, and that is something that happens offline. But now, in the last decade, we have seen this transition from offline to online.
Yeah.
And I have been lucky to observe that. When I was graduating in quantitative economics and econometric analysis from the University of Rochester, it was there when I first saw the power of online crowdfunding. Before that, I had seen how offline crowdfunding works. And like, and online crowdfunding in India was started gaining pace. But in the US, I saw how people use online crowdfunding for all sorts of purposes, and especially in the domain of political crowdfunding. You take Bernie Sanders, you take Barack Obama, they really use crowdfunding to connect with the masses. They didn't just use it as a tool to raise funds, but they raised it as a method, as a tool to create revolutions. And
Correct.
ultimately, the ideology behind crowdfunding that we must all think about is, here is a tool that can democratize finance. And this I've seen. Like, take for example, people who are socially, who aren't as included as others, or people who face a lot of social stigma. But then we see how online crowdfunding has been able to empower them. And one of the cases which I'm sure you must know about is the Shiro's Hangout. So it is a cafe run by acid attack survivors, and they have done a lot of campaigns with Milaap, right? Like, they've raised sometimes 25 lakhs, 30 lakhs, and the number keeps raising every time they do a campaign with you guys. So this is a cafe totally run by acid attack survivors, and it's been doing good, but and on their own, and 100% credit to them, right? Like, but then there are situations, like the COVID-19 pandemic, where things may go south a little. And that's when these people have tapped into the power of the crowd. Or take, for instance, another example, Uday Modi. Again, this is a campaign that you would know about, right? Like, this is a guy. So Uday Modi, what he did is, like, one day, an elderly couple visit him, and he sees them in a very bad condition. They are poverty stricken, and they don't have, like, they're totally malnourished. And so he asks them, like, what is, like, why are you here? Like, they were there for treatment, obviously, but he's like, what, why are you like this? Like, why are you so weak? And they tell him that they were abandoned by their children. Now, this is a guy, he tells them off front that from tomorrow, every day I'll send you food 2 times a day. But then he starts and he sees there's so many more people like that, so many more elderly abandoned. And now the number keeps increasing from 2 to 4 to 10 to 20. It doesn't, like, once that awareness encompasses you, once you become aware of what is happening around you, right, you can't turn a blind eye towards it. But now it is way beyond his paycheck. Right now, what does he do? He goes for crowdfunding. And look at how this is something that was started by the crowd, a part of the crowd, and then how it was backed by the crowd. Uday Modi's campaign ended up raising 1.9 crore on Milaap, right? And it was shared 6,800 times on social media. And not just that, because people saw what he was doing, there were 40 more people on Milaap who started raising money for him. So a small act, and it magnified to a level. And all that, why? Because of the power of the crowd. So essentially, to me, it was never about, like, what intrigued me to begin with was why there was no book on crowdfunding in India. And because India seems like to be the epicenter of crowdfunding. And mark my words on it, in the future, India will own crowdfunding, because at the end of the day, you can have the tech, you can have everything, right? But what powers the crowdfunding? It is the crowd, and we have 1.3 billion people, So that's a huge number. And that's why crowdfunding serves as this tool. And especially in India, where it can democratize finance, and in places where there are gaps in the existing social safety nets, right? Like, we are a country, we are a socialist we are a democracy that adheres to socialism. So a lot of onus is on the government to provide certain services. So there are a lot of safety nets that the government has to provide. But then what we see, there are always gaps in those existing social safety nets. For instance, medical crowdfunding, right? We may have the world's biggest, healthcare insurance experiment in the world with Ayushman Bharat, and it may be as ambitious as covering, it covers 50 crore people. But then again, there will always be those gaps, and that's why we are seeing how people are using medical crowdfunding, to fund their medical expenses for all sorts of needs. And then we are seeing the empathy, because at the end of the day, what connects us to everyone around us? It's a common set of identities. So those help us empathize with other people, and that is the engine behind crowdfunding. So that's why I think it's a very beautiful it's a very beautiful mechanism if you look at it, crowdfunding. And that's why it's about the people. So that's why we call it the story of people, because at the end of the day, everything in crowdfunding derives itself from the crowd.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Irfan. Thank you so much for that. So I think, just adding on to what you said, Milaap definitely has played a key role in the growth of online crowdfunding in the last 10 years. And so far, we've had about 4.7 million donors contributing towards 3 lakh plus causes. And together, we've been able to raise about 1,100 crores across different causes so far. Right? When I say different causes, it could be social, it could be medical, it could be educational, all sorts of causes. And out of this, about 145 crores were raised for just organ transplants and trauma cases. Right? So, like you also rightly mentioned, that people are being more aware of what crowdfunding is. And this is something that we also see every day, because in the last 3 years, we see that the number of campaigns that are also getting set up, the number of people who are coming forward, asking for help and wanting to connect with people who want to help, that has tripled in the last 3 years, which is also amazing, right? So like also you've mentioned in chapter 7 of your book about medical crowdfunding, Milaap has had the fortune to facilitate more than 50% of all pediatric liver transplants in India, right? So coming back to our discussion, when I say we are seeing a splurge in the number of people coming forward, that also, then we as a platform, we are ensuring that it does not take more than 2 minutes for anybody to set up a campaign on the platform now, right? So they can set up a campaign via their mobile phones, could be via laptop, tabs, anywhere, but it will not take them more than 2 minutes to get their pages up and running, right? So by which I think now I will come down to what is really needed to set up a campaign, right? That is one question which I feel everybody has in the back of their heads before coming to the platform and thinking, okay, what do I do now? So there are just three things that you should be able to answer as a campaign organizer, right? First is, who are you and how are you associated with the cause? If it's a person you are willing to help, then how are you related to them, right? That's your first question. That will set the base of your entire story. Second is, what is your cause and why are you fundraising for this cause, right? And third is, um, if you say that, okay, I want to raise 5 lakh rupees towards this cause, then how are you planning on utilizing those 5 lakh rupees? Do you have a plan yet? Is there a breakup that you can probably give us? Because any reader, any potential donor who looks at your story, if you're able to answer these three questions um, in a very crisp way, they will connect with you. That is all that is needed. Just answer these three questions. Uh, be very specific about your ask. Be very specific about the need, and then you're good to go, right? Of course, apart from this, you can always add pictures, you can always add documents to add more credibility to your cause. For example, if I start a campaign for one of my friends and I add my friend's photo, it immediately gives a face to the campaign, right? Anyone who looks at the fundraiser, of course, people who might already, you want me to repeat? Sure, I'll do that. So the moment someone looks at the campaign, if there is someone known, of course they'll know the person and they'll go ahead and connect with the cause. But if there is some unknown person just reading through the page, then they know who they're supporting. They have a face in their minds now. Now they know, if they donate towards this cause, then this is the person who's going to get benefited from it, right? So pictures are a great way to add credibility to the story. Then of course documents, the more, so if you have documents which can define your cause in a better way, then great, you should be adding documents as well. um, Coming to, okay, so there is a question we have. So they want us to repeat the three questions that they should be answering while building their story. Okay. First thing is, who are you and who are you raising funds for? So first is that, where you establish that relationship between you and the person or the cause that is going to get benefited from your initiative. Second is, you tell them what your cause is and why you are even involved in this cause, right? Third is, of course, fund utilization. You tell them how you are planning on utilizing the funds, because then that will give them a clear idea as to um, how the funds will be utilized, how your donation is going to get utilized eventually. So, okay. Now, coming to the bit of online crowdfunding, Irfan, Ravina, like you just rightly mentioned, that today everybody is connected online, right? Even right now, this session, you and I might not have met. We may not have spoken much before, but at this point of time, we're all connected because we all connect towards this story of crowdfunding. We all want to know what it is about. We want to talk about it. So this just proves that everything is just one click away right now. So the entire power of online crowdfunding is just a click away, and you can connect with this entire world via social media platforms. That is the strongest medium existing right now. Correct. So yeah, so Irfan, I think that will also take us to chapter 10 of your book, where you've also mentioned that 85% of Milaap's traffic is currently through just mobile devices, right? And that just helps us understand how crowdfunding has progressed in itself. So is there something that you'd like to add to that as well?
So interestingly, you say that, right, like 85% of the traffic derives from mobile devices. And what does Milaap do next? So they integrate. They realize that WhatsApp seems to be like the natural option that should be integrated into how we are how we are providing our crowdfunding services. So after that, Milaap, like, it integrates the WhatsApp API for its campaigns, and they did that around October 2018. And then Milaap witnesses a 2 times increase in the gross donation volumes. And by 2019, Milaap had served well over 2.4 lakh people through WhatsApp. So definitely social media, if you're thinking about crowdfunding, if you for any cause, and this could be medical, medical expenses, this could be for a product that you're passionate about, this could be for a book, and anything, basically, any, even personal emergencies. So the possibilities are endless. But now you are posed with this question: how do you raise funds? And that can be a little overwhelming, given we we are all on social media, but we are always competing for attention on social media. Like, with us, like, billions of other people are on social media, but what you have is your, like, we call them connections. What you want to properly utilize is the networking effect that social media allows you to tap into. And how do you do that? First, you have your first connections. Now, first connections, I would say, these are people who are directly your friends, right? Like, these are your buddies, that whom you can ask for anything. And like, if you raise funds online, or if you do it offline, you can go to these people and ask them, "Theek hai, bro, like, I need help with this, can you help me out?" And they will do that, right? Now, this is a very powerful section, but this is often not a huge section. These are people usually 20, 25, 50, if you're a very social person, right? Now, second is your second connections. These are your colleagues whom you met, whom you've interacted with, maybe not a very deeper level, but these are as important. When I say in crowdfunding, these are as important, because from our research, what we found is, yes, your first connections are always the first ones to donate, but usually people are surprised by by how much their second connections contribute to their campaign, and how exactly. Because making a donation is one part, but you want to utilize the networking effect. If you got, as you said, there are three fundamentals, right? You need to, if you have them, well and good, and then you can go ahead with the campaign. Now, all your boxes are checked, but now you want to move from there. Your story is brilliant, everything is good, now you want to move from there. So it all boils down to your second connections.
Correct.
So whom you should go out, you should go out of your, and maybe email them, maybe send them a text on Facebook, or on WhatsApp, and say, "Hey, can you please share this campaign?"
Yeah.
And that doesn't take time. You can broadcast a message on WhatsApp,
Correct.
right? And that won't take you time. And they're one share. And different platforms have come up with their own metrics of how much a share, helps with donations. Some even say one share is, like, one share fetches you as much as 500 rupees. And, it is equivalent to that. So what you need from your second connections is shares. They should be sharing. Now, what do you need from your first connections? First connection, obviously, you get them to donate, you get them to share. But more than that, if it is a product, if it's an NGO that you're raising funds for, right, you could directly ask them to create a campaign of their own.
Yes.
Because then then the network effect multiplies. The onus is not just on you. And today, like, crowdfunding platforms are providing so many options. Like, Milaap is at the forefront of creating micro pages, right? So for the uninitiated, micro pages is when Milaap will put up a lot of campaigns, on a same page, because they all they all go back to the same core campaign. So for instance, I want to raise funds for an NGO, like say I am an NGO and I have a lot of volunteers who are raising funds. So what Milaap does for that NGO, it sets up a micro page for them, and where all those campaigns can be hosted. So I don't think, the crowdfunding platforms are very accessible. You can call up Milaap, you can call up Aarti, like she'll help you set a micro page if that is your requirement. If you're, say, if you are raising funds for an afforestation drive, right? Like, and if the cause resonates with them, if they see that you've done your homework, they'll give you a micro page. Now it's not just you raising funds, it's all your first connections raising funds for you. And the best thing about social media is, right, once you got your content strategy, once you have that, and again, crowdfunding platforms are going to help you with that, because it's in their interest too, right? Like, they also want you to succeed, so they'll always help you with that. At some level, they'll help you, at least they'll guide you how you should go on about your content. And once that content is figured out, then putting that on multiple campaigns, like, then it's just you add a few details here and there. And I think that's a short way of success.
Yeah.
And that's how one should look at tapping into this vast potential of social media.
Absolutely. So also, as a crowdfunding platform, we also ensure that there is complete transparency that is maintained across causes, right? So if you are setting up a campaign, then you will have complete transparency in terms of who all contributed towards your cause, how many donors do you have, and then how much have you been able to raise all in all, right? As a donor, if I am a donor towards your cause, then I will have complete transparency in terms of how much of the need has been met till date. And then you also have an option of sharing the progress with me via an update, right? So I contributed towards your cause, like say a week ago, and now I want to know more about the cause. Okay, so what has happened since the time I donated? What has moved on the ground? Have you been able to utilize the funds that we collected for your cause? So what is happening there? So then you as a campaign organizer have that option of sending us an update, sending all your donors an update saying that, hey, thank you so much for your donation. And this is how I am planning on utilizing the funds, or this is how I've already utilized the funds. And that update will then go out as an email and as a WhatsApp message to all of the donors. So all the donors, one, will stay engaged with your cause, and second, they will all be constantly notified of what is happening after they've contributed towards the cause, right? So if tomorrow there was a third person who had to visit the page, and that person has not yet contributed, they are still deciding whether to contribute or not, but they still want to know what is the current progress, they can still go to the update section, they can still see what is happening at the moment, how is the urgency looking, are they still in need of funds, because I see they've raised some, so will my donation now make an impact? So they can still do that analysis right on the campaign. So we as a platform are providing that level of transparency to all stakeholders, that is campaign organizers, donors, visitors, everyone, right? So that is there, of course. And like you mentioned, Irfan, um, the micro page that you referred to, right? That is one of the most effective ways of raising funds. So I'll just break this down for everyone else also. So for example, I start a campaign and I say I need 10 lakhs for this cause. And there is someone, so if you connect with my cause well and you say, okay, 10 lakh is a huge goal for you to raise all alone. So let me help you with that. So I'll take a chunk of a part of it. So you say that, okay, I'll help you raise 1 lakh from my network. And you start a child campaign for my campaign. And you say, okay, I'm going to start sharing this campaign in my network under my name because people know me. And if I share the campaign with them, then there is a high probability that I will be able to help you with some part of your big picture, right? So you are contributing that 1 lakh towards the big picture, which is the original 10 lakh that I want to raise funds for, right? So that is, yes, one of the most effective ways that we've seen so far. So where the entire responsibility is not just with the campaign organizer who started the campaign, but now it's a team of people and it's a collective effort, and everybody together is slowly walking towards the big picture, right? Um, so Ravina, I think now this takes us to one more question where would you like to tell us why you believe in this entire bit of online crowdfunding and that being the future of India?
So very interesting. I think firstly adding to what you and Irfan said, I
Yeah.
think a lot of where we've seen the evolution of online crowdfunding happening, we've also seen a lot of trust, with crowdfunding platform, which initially people were very skeptical, and because of acknowledging and addressing our first networks, our second networks, building microsites also increases that trust over time. And of course, through numbers, through, like we've seen the transition of how these 1100 crores, which is a huge number, which Milaap has raised over the last 11 years. So of course, the trust built has only been amplified and it's only increasing. And we've had this conversation with a lot of people while we were writing the book itself, that earlier in this entire transition, trust is something which wasn't very clear. People were always worried about frauds happening. People were always worried about fake campaigns. So, but over time, again, adding to what you said about the transparency bit, over time we've seen that trust has only increased, and not just altruism and empathy, but trust is so essential for raising campaigns. It could be for any purposes. We've seen that in medical campaigns. We've seen that in reward-based campaigns. Also, we've seen that in small loans, which is the debt-based campaigns. So yes, I think the factor of trust is very essential. That is adding to your point. But of course, why I believe crowdfunding is the future. So again, going back to what Irfan said, we are a country of 1.3 billion people, which is huge, and it's only going to increase. And with technology being we are in the phase of only evolving our technology. We are in the phase of only incorporating machine learning, artificial intelligence. We're incorporating these things to eliminate fraud. There is so much of research being happening right now in India and in the West and across countries, where through machine learning, through bots, through simple algorithms, simple and complex algorithms rather. We're trying to address fake. We're trying to filter out fake campaigns. We're trying to filter out fraud campaigns, and it's happening only easier and in an efficient way. So I believe that we have the people, we have tech, we also have very strong social networks. We have Facebook, we have, which is again, Facebook is very integral for Milaap. We've seen that through stats as well. So through social networks, we have the recipe, we have the ingredients for this recipe. So yes, we are at we're only going to increase, and the numbers are very significant. So yes, that is why crowdfunding is the future, but also more than just donation based, coming one step behind, but also for reward based crowdfunding. We've seen that so many people want to be entrepreneurs in this country, and that is why reward based crowdfunding is also working. We want to see that people want small loans. Maybe they cannot go to banks, they cannot always have that mortgage, or always have the collateral for their mortgage. So they come to crowdfunding platforms, they come to Milaap, and then they ask for like small loans, which also have a very significant return rate. So yes, I think that crowdfunding does have a lot of potential in India, because we do have a lot of ingredients. And also, coming back to one of the Goldman Sachs report, which said that crowdfunding does have the potential to address an opportunity of 1.3 trillion. So these numbers are huge. And I really hope that in the long run, in the next 2, 3 years, a lot more research takes place at both an academic level and both at a market research level, because we'll know what are the real numbers, because these numbers are just a sample of the entire population. But this is my belief that the real numbers will be much more, and we'll be uh, creating an impact to a much larger audience in the long run.
Correct, correct. Yes. Thanks, Ravina. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful talking to you both. Thank you so much for joining us. I think now we can open the floor for some questions from the audience as well. Over to you, Mubin.
Thank you, Aarti. That was a very nice discussion to have. We have tried to accommodate a lot of questions that we believe people would have wanted an answer for. Though some of the people who wanted to join who couldn't be a part have shared a few questions that they have through the form that we had shared earlier. So I have a question from Chittareshan, who's asking, can you check with one of the authors how I can narrate my story to potential donors, considering that they would have come across a lot of crowdfunding campaigns. So they're basically asking how can they communicate their need or like make the donors understand the urgency of the need through narration. So any one of you can take that question.
So I think I'll take that question because most of my life I've dealt with storytelling. Even like when I was a journalist, storytelling is something that is at the, it's essential. It forms the core of the campaign. So when you approach a campaign, you need to get a few boxes checked. One is your written story. Like keep the language simple. Like, right, your English has to be simple. And if it's not English, right, you can always check with the crowdfunding platform. You can ask them, they will help you maybe in translation. And a lot of platforms, they also allow you to write in your native tongue also, if that helps your cause. So that language is important. Like I would say the sweet spot is between 500 to 1,000 words, and 1,000 words is upper end. If it's for some NGO where you also have to introduce the NGO, then go up to 1,000 words. But otherwise 500 words is a good crisp amount. But that is the wording part of the campaign, and you can make it like depending on what appeal you have. Like if it's a personal emergency, then it has to have that emotion. Because in any other domain, maybe you're selling something to someone, and if you are if you're a seller, you're selling something. Here, what are you selling? Nothing, right? Like you are asking the audience to trust you. You are trying to connect them through your empathy. So emotion forms the biggest part of that. So whatever you write, you have to pour your heart out. Even if it's for a product, you have to tell the audience important, why it's important to you, why it resonates with you, and how you plan to, what you plan to do with the money and all. That's the written part. Second is the video. If you can make a video, that's the best deal, because what we are seeing with the advent of social media, again, attention spans are getting to, they're decreasing a little. So people like to consume video now rather than the written word. And there's always the section of people that want to consume video is much higher because videos are easier to consume. Now for that, I'm not saying that you need to be a maverick at creating videos. A few simple tools. You don't need to know everything about Premiere Pro. Even like simple apps on the App Store will allow you to create a video where you can put text at the bottom. Even your mobile video editors have that. So you create a video. Maybe you create a video appeal, depending on your prowess, depending on the resources you have. Maybe a friend of yours knows how to do, like video editing. You can ask for help. You can ask for help from them. And in a lot of cases, what we see, even crowdfunding platforms go way out of their way, and they help you with the video part of it. So video, I think, is a very essential part. And keep the videos from anywhere, they can be from 1 minute to 3 minutes. I would suggest 1 minute is a great, that's a great time, because in 1 minute you can communicate a lot of things, and it'll be easier on you, and then you can analyze how the audience has reacted to it. And it is necessary that whatever content you get, whoever comments on your campaigns, you reply to them. It's necessary to reach out in terms of how you market your content. So these two things I would suggest at the end of the day: video and written. But if you are someone who's not just looking for say personal expenses or personal emergencies, you are someone who's trying to raise money for a cause, and the cause resonates, you think, with a bigger audience, then you should also consider PR. You should also consider your local news media, even national news media, for those reasons, right? And today, that's the best part about social media. Again, what we have seen is, you tag a newspaper, you tag some social celebrity on Twitter, and if it's for a social cause, right, they actually respond. And how many times have we seen this, right? Like, there's a campaign, suppose you guys share a campaign about someone, a 12-year-old boy suffering from some liver disease, right? And you tag a celebrity in it, and that celebrity will respond. And they, in a lot of cases, that happens. So if you have a social cause, you can expect that too. So your social strategy should also be try to include NGOs who would retweet, or they should include press that would give you coverage. Again, if it's, say, for a cleanliness drive, you want to clean your local river, then as a journalist, I am telling you, every journalist would want to pounce on that news. We see a networking effect that happens. Not just one ends up covering the news, like 100 different outlets will cover that news. And I have worked in this space. I have worked in the crowdfunding space, in the fundraising space, in the NGO space, and in the news media space. And these all things are like glue. They go together. One follows the other. That's why crowdfunding is up there. It has a good volume of media coverage. So these are things I think you should definitely take into account when you see how to draft content for a campaign.
Thank you, Irfan. I think that answers Chitresh's question. We can take questions on the call as well, while I have a few questions on the chat section. Angad has...
I have a question. Yeah. So, Irfan and I think Ravina, I'm not sure, they rightly spoke about how well crowdfunding is doing, and a lot of people, um, willingly contributing these days. So I think it's a fabulous job that maybe Milaap is also doing, making it easier for everyone to contribute towards the causes that are very close to their heart. But looking at the future, do you think any government regulations need to be put in place to make this sector more uniform, or say more credible?
Cool. So Angad's question, I believe, is: do you think there is any...
Sorry, did you get my question?
Yeah, your voice was a little bit weak, but then I'm going to say that question again, repeat the question. It is, do you guys believe there is any requirement for government restrictions when it comes to crowdfunding industry? So I think, Ravina, can you comment on
that? Yes. So I'm just going to repeat the question just to get the clarity. So Angad asked that if does he think that do we think that there needs to be a regulation for crowdfunding? So yes and no, because I think crowdfunding in India is in the process of regulation. Unlike China, so I draw a parallel over here with China, typically based on debt-based P2P markets, and then which was regularized, and a lot of so their P2P markets slashed by almost 40%, if I'm not wrong, because of these regulations. But compared to India, we do not have equity-based crowdfunding till now. We do have debt-based, but it's not yet fully flourished. And donation-based crowdfunding, I think, is somewhere sufficiently regulated at this point of time. But of course, going on the long run, talking about like in the future, once it flourishes to an extent where it's just uncontrollable, So of course we will need additional regulation back then, but I think at the additional regulation then, but I think at the growing rate, at this particular rate, I think we do have sufficient amount of regulation. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cool. Aarti, we're getting a lot of questions directed at the platform. There are people asking how do we ensure that when a campaign is set up in a span of 2 minutes for an urgent need, how do you guys ensure that there is funds raised for the person or for the right cause? There could be fraud campaigns and all of that.
Right.
This is this is about urgent campaigns where the need is required in 48 hours or like 24 hours.
Right. Okay. So to answer that, first thing, like I mentioned, that it's always good to add pictures and documents. So once you have all the content ready, it will not take you more than 2 minutes to get the page set up. Right. Once the page is set up, it comes under review, and we have a team which works on verifying causes, which will just work on reading your story, understanding your need, and then whatever documents, pictures you've shared, we work just in verifying all of the causes that get set up. So each of the campaign that gets set up on the platform today, each of those campaigns go through a verification process. We have a dedicated team for that. So only after the cause is verified is when you as a campaign organizer will then have access to the funds that you start raising. So once the page is set up, you can always go ahead, start raising contributions, you can start sharing the campaign, you can do all of that, your page will be live. But the first 24 hours are usually spent in getting the cause verified.
Perfect. Thank you, Aarti. I have an interesting question from Sauvik. He's asking, will there be a sequel to the book that you guys have written 5 years down the line? Will you be analyzing the situation of crowdfunding in India?
So yes, because so this goes back to the last question that we got about regulation, right? And Ravina rightly said, maybe not right now because the existing regulations are working. But as more and more things come on board, right? Like you have the integration of artificial intelligence in how campaigns are, what metric is used to rank campaigns. There's a lot that goes behind, behind the scenes in crowdfunding also. And a lot of it is not, the public is yet not aware. And as corporates, as companies, start tinkering with those models, right? And they are bound to be in any space, no matter what the intentions are, right? They're bound to appear, I would say, pitfalls. And to regulate those things, to make sure that there is a balance, there's a healthy competition and all those things exist in simultaneity, then regulation comes. And then same about technology, as we adapt machine learning, as we adapt new methods of communication, there will be a requirement for new visions. You'll have to envision something at a whole new level. And as I said, if you personally ask me, I think in India the potential of crowdfunding has been, maybe we have tapped into 5% of that potential. And the guys at Milaap will tell you, because they're very excited right now about how much expansion they can do, because we have touched a small part of the market. And we are like, crowdfunding is still, we are in cities and tier 2 cities, and there's a potential to go into a lot of rural areas. And as internet penetration increases, so the story will be completely different. I think we still have to, we have 90% of the entire market to realize. And then there's evolution, like how we adapt to reward based crowdfunding, to subscription based crowdfunding, to real estate based crowdfunding, to royalty based crowdfunding, to debt based crowdfunding, and so on and so forth. The possibilities will be endless. At the end of the day, it is how much can the crowd contribute. And we know from the power of this nation, right? Like 1.3 billion people can contribute to a lot of things. Crowdfunding will play a role in so many things. Like for you may have like impossible things driven by the power of the crowd that you would never even think about. So I think the second book should be there, but it's a matter of time, right? Like when those things come, when those improvements we see, then we
that Prateek is asking is also there on the call. He's asking, do we need a 12A and 80G certificate to run a successful crowdfunding campaign? Does Milaap help in getting all these certificates?
Okay, running an NGO. Okay, so it is not mandatory. So if you have an ATG certificate and if you can provide tax benefits, then great. If not, then even then that's okay. You can still run a campaign. So tax benefits is only a part of your campaign, right? So, but it all of it boils down to how effectively are you sharing your story? How effective is your content? Tax benefits does not, that entire bit will not decide whether a donor will contribute towards the cause or not, but your story and your content and images and videos, that bit is what is going to contribute to helping the donor decide. So ATG is not mandatory. If you have, then great. If not, even then that is okay.
Perfect. I think we are somewhat inching towards 12 o'clock. I'll take one more question. There's a question which is asking, Milaap is an online crowdfunding platform. Does that restrict the service of crowdfunding to only people who can get online and start a campaign? So I think that's a very valid question. There'll be many people who don't have the technical know-how to like get on a platform and set up a campaign. So Aarti and then one of you, Irfan, like from a broader perspective, I would like to know how do you think that bridging should happen? Like people who don't have access to the internet or who really don't know how to get on the internet, how should that bridging happen?
So that's okay if you are not very tech savvy, if you're not comfortable starting a campaign on your own, that is okay. We have a team which will help you set up the campaign for you. So you can tell us your need, you can give us the details, and we'll write the story and we'll get the page up and running for you. And then from there, all you'll have to do is just share. That's all. And you will have a dedicated campaign manager assigned to you who will be with you throughout, end to end, right from the time you associate with us till the last day of your campaign. You will have that campaign manager guiding you and giving you tips and suggesting you various multiple strategies that will be personalized just for you, so that you can start raising funds and you can start sharing in those specific networks. So we will give that support. So we are around.
Perfect. Ravina, while Milaap is doing everything possible to get these people also on board, do you think this will act as a hindrance for these people to start crowdfunding online?
Hello. Yeah. So I don't think so, because I see that Milaap is taking a lot of effort for the verification of the of the campaign, also to understand how the money is coming in. So of course they are eliminating that gap of fraud and money laundering, etc. But I do feel like we've seen a lot of campaigns through church, through mosque, all these religious places, even temples, which so crowdfunding and fundraising still happens offline rather than online. So I think we have, because like the Indian tradition of fundraising has been imbibed in us ever since, I think, our ancestors, for marriages, for any functions, for any religious gatherings, or for any gatherings for that matter. It's always been offline. I know of so many communities who give funds to each other, maybe in cash, in kind, or anything, for treatments, for any functions, for any gatherings, or for any celebrations. So I do not think. I think if crowdfunding companies, so if Milaap does take money offline, I don't think it will be an hindrance. In fact, I think it will empower more people to come forward and raise and start their own campaigns and go out there and even ask money from people, even create that awareness that you can also do this.
Perfect. I think we have tried to accommodate as many questions as we could in the 1 hour that we have had here. We will be sending a recorded version of this to all the people who have attended, and the Facebook page of Milaap will have live streaming this session, so you can watch it over there as well. And going forward, if there are any sessions with the thank you email, I will be sharing Ravina's and Irfan's email IDs as well. So if you have any questions for the speakers directly, you can reach out to them. Thank you, Irfan. Thank you.
Thank you, Aarti, thanks, Naveen.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everyone.
It was
Thank you,
lovely.
guys. Thank you, everyone, for the questions and for hosting us. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye-bye.